Yeah, exactly. You know, when it comes to personal play, I like maps like Old Stream Farm, which is a tiny farm. You can get away with tiny equipment and tiny tractors, and you're moving around a lot. The thing I'm finding today is I'm doing a lot of plowing because that's the only contracts that were available, or liming my own field that I just bought, which is also a pain in the butt. But I like to be able to see a couple of different fields. So at least with this ploughing lark, hey, we're down on the southern border of this map where we haven't been before. There's a cell point down there of some description, and there's a cell point behind those trees over there somewhere. I've got no idea what the cell points are for because we haven't visited them, but the thing is, there's a blue dot there for something. There's another one down there for something. So there's a whole lot of stuff down here that we haven't really investigated much. So coming down here to plough this field lets us see someone's let their field go to rack and ruin there. I wonder if it's cheap. But yeah, it's having smaller fields means you can run the smaller equipment and be more flexible in what you're doing. Now, if you want to, if you've got 3 small fields and you want to plant barley in all the fields, you have that option. But you also have the option to plant grass and barley and soybeans. So, me with my big fields, either I've got to chop. If I had this field, I would have to, chop it into 4. In order to have a flexible farm, or leave it as one big field and just do one crop at a time. Now, historically, we know my Saturday series, I tend to plant the same crops in multiple fields, so that when it comes to harvest, I take the harvester out and we can harvest 3 fields in succession, all with the same crop. I don't have to take time out to transport the load from this field off to storage before I can unload the last of it from the harvester and then start on a field of different crop. I mean, it's... What did we do? A couple of years ago we did... a European map. I can't remember, but we were running a 90 horsepower 2-wheel drive tractor. With all sorts of tiny equipment. All the fields were really small, so we I did dozens of contracts with our really small cheap equipment, and it was a lot of fun to play. I think the biggest contract I did was harvesting potatoes with a giant potato harvester. Oh, he did Campaign of France, isn't it now? It's technically it's not really a new French map. He's had Campaign of France definitely in 19. I can't remember if it was in 17 as well. Old Stream is his usual sort of ready to go when the game releases by Sprung map. He has the Valley, the Old Farm, is it? That's usually the second map out. What I would really love to see from Black Sheep is the the American map he did. Something Creamery. We played with Arthur as a group on it, and that was a really fun map as well. The Valley, the Old Farm, the Valley, the Old Farm, Campaign of France, Old Stream Farm, and then there was South Mountain Creamery, was it? Yes. And that was a lot of fun, and completely outside his normal run of farms, because all of his farms are very, very French related. Sort of the deep country in France. Places where you'd find grape farming and just small farms, old villages, fields tucked behind houses in the old villages, and having a tractor like this would be an extravagance at 200 horsepower, but South Mountain Creamery just threw that out, and you won quad tracks and John Deere RTs or RXs, and just the big equipment and the big stuff. And it's a cattle. It's a dairy farm because it's a creamery. And he had a ton of money in real life. South Mountain Creamery is a place. And it was modelled very well, because when I saw a news story on it, I looked at it and said, I played on that farm. But the guy had a ton of money stolen by the US government because he doesn't do credit card sales, but he has a farm store. And so people would pay by cash, and he would bank the cash every day. And below $9,000 or below $10,000, which is the point at which you get investigated by the American government for making more than $10,000. And he had all the proof that he'd made the money legitimately, but they just the American government comes in and says, "Oh, you have money? You need to prove to us that you didn't make it through crime. Not we have to prove you did crime and make this money. You have to prove to us that you didn't do crime," which is complete crap. But they stole his money, and then he has to A, sue the government to get his money back, and B, prove that he didn't do crime to make the money. And even if he proves, it's a two-stage process. Even if he proves that he made the money legitimately, and here's all my books, and here's all my cows, and here's all the receipts of my sales, they're still going to keep the money until he sues them. And the US government is generally of the opinion of, it's going to cost you more to sue us and get the money back than we've actually stolen from you. Now, some people will find a nice lawyer who will do it pro bono, and just because the US government sucks in some situations, and will sue the government to get your money back, because it's your money. You earned it, you should get to keep it. But this is more than that, because what was it? There's an incentive if the police seize your cash. Let's say you've decided, I'm going to go and buy. Actually, I know of this one as well. Guy decided he's got a trucking company. There's a second-hand truck down in Arizona. He's spoken to the owner who wants to sell it, and they've agreed on a price. So he's got the money, and he drives down there to buy the truck. And he gets stopped by the police on the way for some form of traffic violation. They search his car, they find they search his car. They find $10,000 in the car, and so they take it. And it's sort of, oh, we suspect that you're planning to do crime or did crime to make this money. Well, the police precinct that took the money gets to keep some of the money, and the rest is handed over to the government. So it's kind of like a finder's fee. And so if you sue the police, we don't have the money. We gave most of it away. We just kept the finder's fee. But it goes to allowing the department to spend a little bit more than their official budget was for the year. And it's all sorts of, crime. Basically, we have guns, we can steal your money, we've stolen your money. Now you have to prove that the money was legitimately yours through non-legal means, or through legal means, and then you have to try and get the money back. And because we don't have all the money, you can't just sue us. You have to sue the city government, you have to sue the state, and you have to sue the feds to get all of your money back. Okay, and that's going to cost you an absolute freaking fortune. We just stole $10,000. It's going to cost you $30,000 to hire a good attorney to get that money back. What are you going to do? Because, okay, you get your $10,000 back, maybe even that's not guaranteed, and you're out of pocket $30,000 for the court costs. And for most people, that's not a good deal. If they pulled over, I don't know, Donald Trump driving down the road, who happened to have $10,000 in his trunk, he'd be pissed off. Yes, he'd probably sue them because he does that sort of thing. But technically, $10,000 isn't a significant amount. It's like having someone steal $1.50 off you. Okay, I'm not going to miss it. They can run off with my $1.50. I'm not going to bother chasing them. But when your income is $80,000 a year and government takes 10,000 of it just on a whim, that's a lot of money. And it's not, the money, the government needs to get the money somewhere, because it's not the federal government who's sending all our money abroad. It's local government getting money that they can use on their local budget, because that's the way the law was written. Now I know of some lawyers who are challenging across the board this whole idea of what technically it's called civil asset forfeiture. And the way it happened was, look, Mr. Crime Boss lives in a mansion, drives some luxury vehicles, and he got all his money from crime, so we should be able to confiscate his house and his cars and his property because it all came from crime. And a lot of people said, yeah, that sounds reasonable. You should pass a law that lets law enforcement take his stuff because he's a crime lord and he does that. But the problem is it ends up affecting smaller, innocent people going about their day-to-day business. And you can't allow government to steal someone's stuff. Now, it's not a problem, you know. Okay, you think he's a crime lord, prove he's a crime lord. Once you've proven it, that he's doing illegal stuff, you can then petition the court for his stuff to be confiscated and sold and pay his victims or whatever. But at that point, it's a court deciding, yeah, this guy's a scumbucket, and he made all his money nefariously, and so he shouldn't be allowed to keep it, because you're not allowed to profit from crime. But yeah, when the government's just saying, oh, well, you have to prove you didn't, it's like, that's not how our legal system is written. And so, as I said, there's these lawyers that are challenging this across the country, and they'll take, you know, someone like the owner of South Mountain Creamery and just say, we're going to challenge this, and we're actually going to challenge the law that this theft was based on, and have the government prove that you did crime, not have the government say you did crime and then have to have you prove that you didn't. Unfortunately, it's kind of like how a lot of federal enforcement bodies work. You know, Congress basically passed a law that said, yes, we're not happy with corporations polluting stuff, so we're going to create an agency that will investigate pollution and charge the people who are doing the pollution and fine them for that pollution. That's how it started. But nowadays, they don't have to find pollution and prove that you're doing pollution. They have you fill out forms, and you have to fill out a form to say how much pollution you're producing, and if you are, they'll fine you, and if you claim you're not, and they investigate you and find that you are, they will basically charge you with lying on a federal form. They won't charge you with polluting, they'll charge you with lying on a federal form and fine you for that instead. But now every corporation has to prove that they are not polluting, which means they need hordes of admin to fill out forms with all the information every year that the government requires them to file. What that ends up meaning is, if you're a small company of, I'm a small family business, and I've got to employ a legal consultant to fill out my government forms, I'm employing someone who costs me money and doesn't make me anything. It just keeps the government off my back. And so it makes it, a big corporation like I work for can afford a lot of administrators to fill out all the government forms every year and, dot the I's and cross the T's. But a small company can't afford to do that, so you end up putting small companies out of business. Yeah, exactly. But you hear, the person who created Subway, or, what is his name, Papa John, and, you talk to them and they say, if I wanted to set up the business that I have today, I won't be able to do it because it costs so much in red tape and all of the crap that you have to do that, I'd be paying out more to cover my admin costs than I could hope to make from having a small, store or two. And that's sad because you end up with monopolies. Subway has just been bought out by the same company that owns Jimmy John's, and I think Arby's as well. So it's sort of, well, if you want to buy a sandwich, you've got the choice of Jimmy John's and Arby's and Subway, and they're all owned by the same parent. So it doesn't really matter, you're buying it from the same people. Finding a small... we like to eat at small family restaurants because the food is different. It's not a corporate brand. I know if I go to Bob Evans, I'm going to eat the same thing, or I'm going to be offered the same thing at every single Bob Evans. And it's not as good as it used to be 10 years ago. If I go to McDonald's, I'm going to have burgers. If I go to Burger King, I'm going to have pretty much the same thing, with a different name. But you go to a small, local restaurant, and they're probably all buying their food from GFS or something, but it's creatively put together. So there might be, we have trout this week as the special, or we have something else as the special. There's always something. And it's usually a nice, friendly atmosphere because it's family run. They are concerned with their bottom line. We had a meal. What did we do? We went up to San Francisco. Now this was 20 years ago. We went up to San Francisco for a long weekend. And we came back down the Pacific Coast Highway. So we stopped at Hearst Castle and did the tour around there. But then we carried on. I can't remember what it was before we got to Hearst Castle or after. We're just driving along and it's I'm hungry. Okay, so next town we come across, we'll stop and we'll have something to eat. So kind of like an old, episode of Knight Rider or The Incredible Hulk or the A-Team, where little town in the back end of nowhere and you go to the local diner. And we stopped at the local diner. It was awesome, really nice food. Of course, the waitress is really nice to me because I have an accent, but even so, it was really nice. It's sort of local clientele for the most part. So, Bob walks in and, oh, hi Bob, you want the usual? There's your seat type of thing. It wasn't Bob Evans. And there you go. I have been talking for so long. It's now 11:30. Still haven't finished this contract, but hey, it's been moving along quite nicely. So what I might end up doing, I'm not sure. We'll get to the end of this contract before the end of the stream. But I am getting to the point where I'm going to need some food soon. But what I might end up doing is just setting this worker off, or this off on a worker for the last contract and getting that polished off before the end of today. What's the day? Oh, actually, I might need to, oops, excuse me. Might need to finish this off before sunset, hopefully. Trees are kind of blocking the sunlight. But I might have to finish off this contract on March 2, or finish off the next contract on March 2. And I'll probably do that on a worker while I have lunch. 76% done, so I'm 3/4 of the way through it. I actually wonder how much small manufacturing is going to come back from China. With model railways, there are even other things. 3D printing has come on such a long way over recent years. I bought 2 model locomotives off of eBay. Both of them were broken in similar ways. And it's to do with the wheels are obviously metal, so they can pick up electrical current from the track and feed it to the motor. But to keep them isolated, there's a plastic collar in the middle of the axle. So one side, half the axle is one charge, half the axle's opposite charge. And this plastic insulates the electrical current. Well, apparently when these models were built, the plastic used doesn't play well with lubricating oil. And so over time, the plastic has decayed and split, so the wheels don't turn properly. But someone's 3D printing them. So I bought a pair of sort of axle sets that take the model apart and remove the old plastic collar